I need to have something that's a little bit different. I'm not just a soup girl. I'm a creative and different girl. And so what I bought included
Welcome to the Sunday Reset. I'm Jen.
And I'm Jill. And this week we're talking about our meal plans, why we're not in a rush to pay off our debt, and frugal living tips that will make you miserable.
But first, let's get into our weekly money move. Every week, we talk about one money move over on our Instagram account at Weekly Money Move that you can do to organize, optimize, get started with, get clear on, something to do with your finances. And this week, it was to take a debt inventory.
Woo-hoo!
Yes. So if you've been with us, you know, Jill and I have each had our own debt payoff journeys. I paid off $78,000 of debt with my husband, Travis, in 2 years.
And I paid off $60,000 of debt over 7 years. So it took us a lot longer.
But we both became debt-free. And then we both went back into debt with car loans. And those were intentional decisions, actually for the same reasons. We were both renovating houses, and it's much less expensive to take out a car loan than it is to take out a home equity loan, home equity line of credit, or a building loan. So that's why we chose our paths. And so we still have some debt.
Mm-hmm. So what did you find when you took your debt inventory? Anything shocking?
No, nothing shocking. Well, because we only have one debt and we are paying the minimum every month, but I wanted to go through the math and just look at the numbers just to confirm why we're doing what we're doing. So
I will clarify, both of us also have mortgages. So we're not counting mortgages as debt. We have to pay to live somewhere. So.
I have 2 mortgages. So I guess I have 2 mortgages and a car loan. So I have quite a bit of debt. And that's something that I have to really program myself to re-engage, because for so long it was like, all debt except for your mortgage is bad. Mm-hmm. So your mortgage doesn't count. You gotta have a mortgage, but then as soon as you pay off all your other debt, pay off your mortgage. And I've never considered the mortgage to be good or bad debt. Now I don't see any debt as good or bad. It's all neutral. Mm-hmm. But I don't even think about my mortgages because they are also like money making. Our mortgages, we have our home that we first bought that's now a long-term rental. And now the home that we're in, we divided. So part of it is a rental. So our actual mortgage payment is like $1,000 a month, where it would be probably closer to $2,000 if we just lived in one house and didn't rent anything out. So it's kind of, if you've ever heard of house hacking, it's like that, but we can't get the 2 leases to cover all of our mortgage. And if we were ever to lose one, we would not be able to afford to pay one of our mortgages. So yeah, that's
it. Thus is the state of 2025.
Right. So that's how I view the mortgages more like businesses. Mm. And they are, like, the things we buy for them are tax write-offs. So yeah, but I do have to, they are business debt. But I'm only talking about the car right now because I don't really write anything off for that much. Mm-hmm. So we have $10,434 left on our loan. The car was originally $25,000, and then we traded in a car, and I think we put $5,000 down. I am not 100% sure. I can't remember that. It was back at the end of 2022 when we got the car, December of 2022. So I make a $345 payment every month at 5.5% interest. And so typically in the past, my gauge has been anything over 5% should be paid off quickly. And I still kind of feel that way, but we are at a financial place where investing is difficult right now. We don't have a lot of margin. So we are not even investing for retirement. And that is much more important than paying off a 5% or a 5.5% interest loan. So we typically use the 7% return rate. Over the last 30 years, the S&P 500 has returned 10%. And so we use a gauge of 7% to be conservative, to count for inflation, and to count for your entire portfolio should not be the S&P 500. You should have some bonds, international, some stuff like that. So we use 7%. Some people will use 6%. And so if I'm looking at maybe I wanted to put $150 extra per month towards my car or my investments. So that would bring me to a $500 per month payment, pretty like give or take. So if I do what I'm doing right now and don't change, I will have the loan paid off in 33 months and pay $832 in interest. If I increase it to $500 per month, then I will save $274 and I'll only pay $558 in interest. But if I put $150 per month into my Roth IRA for 33 months at a 7% return, that makes me $475. So $475 versus $274, the better outcome is to invest it. If I do have that margin, I want to put it towards my IRA first instead of paying off the car faster.
What you could have made versus what you could save. And this is that tug of war between emotions and math. And I think sometimes where we fall on that is going to be different. The difference here is relatively minuscule, right? To make $475 versus save $275. Somebody might make a different choice there, and that's totally fine. You know, if the feeling of that debt, of that car payment is just something you want gone. But I do think it's worth running the numbers before making the knee-jerk decision on, I just think this makes more sense versus let me actually see on paper versus my own goals and values what actually makes the most sense and allow the two things to converge to help a decision here.
Absolutely.
I love that you did the math. Because you did the math, I didn't do my math. You can assume very similar things here, but with our car loan, we have about $5,700 left to go on it at 4% interest. And that's one of the things that we talk about when it comes to debt and paying down debt. We believe it's neutral. However, to set yourself up well financially, we want to look at what are the interest rates on these loans. Pretty much anything below 7% interest rate, you don't have to go super hot and heavy at getting that thing gone. You can let that sit. If you have extra money, the math says, the paperwork says, you would be better off putting that money into the stock market and seeing those returns on your investments. So with that said, however, since I first got the loan, I do put an extra $50 a month towards it. Not that much, but you know what? In the grand scheme of things, I think it's going to shave off
Absolutely
close to a year of the loan. And we pay it every other week. So when we set up automatic payments, rather than paying it monthly, I'm paying it biweekly, which gives you a couple additional payments because you're breaking it into 26 payments versus the 12 payments. So that's another way that we're able to kind of shave off a little bit of that interest over the long term. So those are things that I did when we first purchased the car. They're still happening, and I'm comfortable with that. We recently, if you watched our recent Sunday Reset where we talked about investments, Eric and I were able to increase our Roth IRA investments. That's the choice I'm making rather than paying down debt. I don't love to see it there. It's not the most comfortable thing for me, especially when it's decreasing so much. You know, $5,700. If I had an extra $500, I could really just get that debt gone. But it's really helpful for me to realize I'm not actually paying that much in interest. What my money can do in a retirement investment account for me long term is way more valuable than me getting my loan gone in a couple years sooner.
Yeah. 4% is a fantastic rate.
Yeah.
And that is definitely leave it like sort of, we have a mortgage with a 2.3 and a mortgage with a 4.5. And those are things that we will ride out. 5.5 is the edge for me. I think anything six or above is worth getting paid off. But yeah, it's definitely anything over 7 should be prioritized, because then you get into kind of wash territory. So yeah. And with the interest rates now being what they are, you can't afford the old idea of anything over 5%, pay it off. You kind of have to go more to that. Well, anything over 7% should take more of your priority. That's just where we are right now. Eventually, rates will go down again. I believe that. But right. I mean, I believe it in my heart, not in my mind has no idea. Don't trust my mind.
Trust my heart.
Trust my heart. But it's not where we are right now. So we have to adjust our financial goals and advice like based on what's going on in reality right now.
Yeah. Also in reality right now, meal plans.
All right. So we are squarely transitioning from sheet pan oven meals to slow cooker meals because we are in summer and we don't want to turn on the oven as much. So you're going to see us start to transition into that for summer and being a really good steward of our electricity. We had Hope Ware on from Under the Median, and she did a very in-depth test of the appliances that take up the most energy in your kitchen.
She did it so we don't have to.
Exactly. And she found that the slow cooker was the most efficient. Was it slow cooker or pressure cooker?
I think it was the pressure cooker.
Okay.
The Instapot.
So my Instant Pot is both, but I can't use my pressure cooker right now because the lid was recalled.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but I did put in, if you have a Ninja Foodie, definitely check if it's a 300 series to see if your lid for the pressure cook feature has been recalled.
Oh, no, why?
I think you're not supposed to be able to open it when it's under pressure. And the lids, you could open it while it was under pressure. Not that it would come up on its own, but a child could, maybe potentially.
Okay.
So we're getting a new lid in the mail, but I can use my slow cooker in the meantime.
Okay. So what are you making in your slow cooker?
So I got a slow cooker salsa verde chicken, which is literally chicken, jar of salsa. And I'll do rice as well if I'm doing like Instant Pot. If I'm doing slow cooker, I don't know if you can slow cook rice. Not 100%. But if I was doing it pressure cooker, I would throw it all in together with some black beans. I put this recipe in here, but really, honestly, all it is chicken, a can of green salsa, black beans.
Yum.
And there we go. You can also throw in other veggies like maybe peppers, poblanos, whatever you feel. Jalapenos, whatever feels right. And then serve it over rice. And that is delicious. I also was feeling like a Thanksgiving meal.
I love that you're like, summertime. We're not using our oven.
I said we are transitioning. We're not full
catapulted
in yet.
to November.
I know. Well, part of me was like, why do we not have Thanksgiving any other time of year? You can only have those things once a year. And I was like, actually, no.
Break the rules.
So I did a little mini Thanksgiving, but not with turkey. I just did it with a chicken because it's much less expensive. So a little chicken, a little green bean casserole, a little cranberry sauce. Because I was thinking, like, what goes good on a leftover Thanksgiving sandwich?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have half of a loaf of Italian bread from Costco in the freezer, and I want to take that out and use it as a little Thanksgiving sandwich. So some mashed potatoes, some cranberry sauce, some green bean casserole, and some roasted chicken.
And then you put that on a sandwich later, all those things?
I haven't yet.
Okay, but you would?
But I could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just took the best parts, my favorite parts of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I did that.
I love it.
Yeah. And so I have a little, a mini small Thanksgiving dinner for 4 on a sheet pan recipe in here. Has a little bit extra. And then the last one, ham and cheese quiche. I talked about one of these earlier, but we went to a potluck and somebody brought the most delicious honey baked ham. And there was so much of it left over. I took the whole tray. And they gave it to me. I didn't steal it. But they were like,
I love this. It's mine now.
Who wants this ham? And I was like, nobody? I will take all the ham. And so I've been eating it in eggs, sandwiches, just on its own. So I put this little quiche recipe in as an idea of what I could do. But like, I'm just gnawing on it, really.
Oh, man. You came in the other day with eggs, and I think they were breakfast sausage, kind of hashed, mixed together. It smelled so good. It looked so good.
A breakfast casserole is for me.
Influencing me to get some breakfast sausage this week on my grocery list because,
And I talked about this in another video. What I did was I took the breakfast sausage, cooked all of it, froze half. And then later on, I took that frozen half and I threw it I just defrosted overnight and threw it into a breakfast casserole. So quick, so easy.
Wow. We really should record these after we've eaten.
I know. It's making me hungry.
My tummy is making noises. Okay, I know that you said we're not doing sheet pan recipes, but I am. And also so did you.
Right. I'm just not going to make any prefaces anymore. But I did do my first slow cook of the year. That's what I wanted to introduce and talk about.
So this week, I need it easy. We all need easy. Okay? We're never going to hear that I'm ready for hard, actually. So I did a chicken and asparagus sheet pan meal. And here's the thing. It was good. Okay? I'm not going to blow this thing up for you all. It was dinner done. And it's just the same herb blend on both the asparagus and the chicken. If you make the chicken small enough, then the asparagus and the chicken needs the exact same time to cook. It is a little elevated with some Parmesan and lemon juice on the asparagus. And it was good. It was enough, It literally took me 5 minutes to make. 20 minutes in the oven. And I had leftover chicken, which went with this next thing that I made, a hearts of palm salad.
Tell me about this.
This happened because I think I mentioned this in a podcast episode. So if you are crossing over, here's your follow-up to that. So this past hurricane season, it was a rough one. And we had 2 hurricanes within a week of each other. And so if we didn't already stress grocery shop for the first hurricane, Lord knows we were doing it for the second hurricane.
The thing is that everybody lost power in both hurricanes. And so we lost our food the first time and then people rebought it. I used a generator and saved it the first time. And then the second one came and then we all, for even longer, lost our power. So like whether you saved it the first time or you rebought, and I made a Sam's Club run right before the first hurricane.
Yeah.
So I was committed to saving that food, lost it all.
I made some wild grocery purchasing decisions during that time frame. Things I never typically buy, but I was trying to
Stressful
think,
time.
okay, if the power is out and everything is lost, what will I want to eat? And I'm like, not just cans of soup. I can't just have like I need to have something that's a little bit different and creative. I don't know, okay?
I'm not just a soup girl. I'm a creative and different girl.
And so what I bought included a can of Hearts of
I'm a
Palm,
Hearts of Palm girl.
beets, just a can of beets, and then, of course, a bunch of beans and stuff. But I don't typically buy those things. But I thought in the middle of a hurricane, when power is out, I'm going to get creative with Hearts of Palm and beets.
October was such a blur.
Yeah.
Like nobody functioned properly the entire month of October.
But the thing was, is I knew I was going to want I knew I'd want some sort of nutrition.
Mhm.
And I knew that I wasn't going to necessarily have all of my like fresh veggies available to me. And I'm not going to want to just be sitting here eating ramen constantly. So I'm like, what's good for my body? Beets. Beets are good for you. I'm going to get those. All that to say, yes, the power went out. No, I did not dig into my canned goods. So they've been sitting in my pantry this whole time and they're just staring at me like Hearts of Palm. What am I going to do with this?
Remember me
Yeah.
from October? You said you were a Hearts of Palm girl.
You said you were going to get creative with all Hearts of Palm and beets.
It's May.
So, well, now it's June.
Yeah.
So I finally looked up a recipe. And turns out there was a really great one that used up. Well, here's the thing. You know, I don't follow the rules, and I'm trying to give you all permission to also not follow the rules. Don't make extra trips to the grocery store. This recipe that I made is very close to what's written here, except I didn't have fresh avocado and I added beets. So it's a can of chickpeas, can of Hearts of Palm, can of beets. That's my addition. Red onion chopped up, a fresh lemon squeezed over it. I didn't have fresh parsley. I used dry parsley, garlic, olive oil, salt, pepper. This is very good.
Oh, and then you had it with some of the chicken
Yes,
from the night.
from the previous, yeah.
It sounds really good. Chickpeas are so filling, so
Yeah.
delicious.
And all of it together, just kind of the flavors blend so well. I think that it would be really great if I had avocado. I also love the beet addition to it. So it's
love
just a nice cold salad. It all marinates together super well. And again, a nice thing for the summer because we are not turning on the oven for that. And then I made BLTs this week. I finally had my day of, okay, we're going to make the kitchen greasy. We're going to cook up this whole pack of bacon. I usually get the big pack from Costco, so I'll cook the whole thing at once and freeze half, use half. So, and by the way, frozen bacon defrosts and like recooks really nicely. So
it's just protected by all the fat.
yeah, so that's a great one. And the BLT with that Heart of Palm salad together is really great. Makes a really nice side for the next day. So all these things go real nice
You
together.
did really well this week.
Thanks for saying that, Jen.
Yeah.
And yet I was tired. But you know what? We still did it.
Yeah. And
Got ourselves.
some of this is from the 15 emergency meals recipe book that
true.
we have. If you don't have a copy of our 15 emergency meals, better than takeout emergency meals, then the link is going to be in the description. It's free. So go grab it. It will help you choose the food you have at home over takeout, even when you're tired.
So you can feel good too, even when you're tired. Listener question.
Okay. How do you know you're being too frugal? That's a great question. It's very much a Frugal Friends listener question.
Yeah.
So I think when your life revolves around being frugal versus frugality revolving around giving you a better life. And so I see this, not to throw them under the bus, but I see this in the FIRE movement. Like their lives, not everyone, but I have seen it very glaringly, but even outside of it. when their life revolves around being as frugal as possible, even when they don't need to be. There are some times when your life has to revolve around that because of financial necessity. But when it doesn't need to, then that's when you're being too frugal. Versus frugality should revolve around making your life richer.
Mm-hmm. So these are some metrics that we found. It's kind of our 10 tips to make your life miserable when trying to be frugal. So kind of here's what not to do.
Oh, but we're only going to go through 7 of them.
Yes.
Because I accidentally wrote 10, but only wrote 7.
Never mind. We have a retraction 7. Yeah. The first one is to DIY everything. Even if you hate it, even if you suck at it, just DIY it all. From forcing yourself to learn to knit or sew or fix plumbing. This can make us really miserable. It can absolutely burn us out. It does not lead to longevity. And it really lacks a focus on the fact that our time and energy also matters, that there can be a cost associated to spending so much time doing these things, or the cost of doing them and not doing them well, and then finally needing to cave and pay someone to fix it. But now it's more expensive because you ruined it. Or just not valuing what your time can get you apart from doing that item. I'm thinking about, even, especially here in Florida, a lot of people pay for lawn maintenance, for instance. And I always kind of thought, y'all can mow your own lawns. What are you doing? And to realize, but what else could they be doing instead of literally every single week out there mowing their lawns? What kind of time does that give to the skills that they are good at? How much more meal planning can happen? Time with family, time on a business that you're starting. So I think we need to be aware of these other costs and factors associated with, do I really need to do everything myself?
Yeah. And there is a balance, right? So like in a previous video, we talked about how Travis used a leak sealer in my radiator to kind of DIY a fix for my car. And that was a great short-term solution. We knew it was short-term, and it gave us the time to be able to look at mechanics and get rates and see where we could take it and not be in a crisis and just go with the first place that we went. Because initially we were going to go with the place where we bought the car, and they quoted us $4,000. And then they were like, well, why waste $4,000? Just get a new car. And I was like, I get it. And
That's not what I need.
So then we took it to the place we ended up taking it to, is very close to our house, locally owned and operated by a local family. And it ended up being $1,300 out the door.
Wow.
And so if we were in crisis, we would have only been able to take it to the dealership.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are some places where DIY fix is worth your time, but you need to gauge how much and in what seasons. Second is you never go out or do anything fun. And I will say also, people who are too frugal have kind of diminished their idea of fun, where they think very boring things are fun. But this also balances with people who don't consider themselves frugal or don't think they could be frugal, have overestimated what can be fun. So there can be contentment without complacency. There is a balance. But we're being too frugal when you just refuse to spend money on anything out. There is no restaurants, no nothing. And often, not always, but often it can end up in binge spending later.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you practice the lifestyle for too long and then something happens where you realize life is short, and then you haven't planned or included any of those things in your life, and you could just go off on the other end.
All your money savings out the window.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The third thing to make your life miserable is drive across town to get a 50-cent item to get 50 cents cheaper on an item. So whether this is gas or groceries or literally any item, if you are driving out of your way just to save a minuscule amount of money, not worth it. Because again, we got to think about other aspects of what's valuable: our time, our gas, the wear and tear on the vehicle. All of these things need to come into play with our decision making. I mean, I know people who will drive so far to get a few cents off per gallon on gas, or like, yeah, won't get gas yet. We got to go out of our way to this other spot.
Yeah.
It'll save you $2 with how much money you're actually going to put in the car. And yet you drove so many miles out of the way in order to do that. Or I see it when people are hopping around to so many different grocery stores, not just because, oh, these are where I get my, I can only get certain ingredients here, but for the better deal. Well, because butter's less expensive here, but the chicken's less expensive over there. And if we are just bebopping all over town, making multiple trips to the grocery store, we know that that's also where more impulse spending happens. So we really need to be weighing out, how much am I actually saving by doing this? It could be more advantageous to just stick to one store.
Yeah.
Make your meal plans off of that store.
Not to mention even going, like, the grocery stores are all in the same area. You've got the time it takes to park, walk in, stand in line to check out, look for what you need in the store, get out of the parking lot. Usually people are going on Sundays and it's a mess to get in and out of parking lots. So just that time and mental load is not worth it for such small savings, when you could just create an efficient meal plan, use recipes you're going to choose over takeout, like in our 15 emergency meal recipe book, and eat what you buy. Those are the big heavy hitters that are going to save you money. If you want to add some cherries on top, rebate apps, coupons, use those, not driving all over town for the cheapest price. Next is watering down everything. So milk, soap, shampoo, juice, even just not to just use the last bit. Like I'll water something down to get that last bit. Like I ran out of mousse and I had some leftover hair gel that I couldn't get out. So I would put a little water in it and like spray it in when my hair's still wet.
Yeah,
my hair don't know the difference. And that I will do. But if you're diluting things to the point where it's just not good, it doesn't taste good, doesn't feel good, it doesn't work well, then it's wasted product anyway.
Fifth, always buy the cheapest option. Cheap shoes, cheap tools, cheap cookware. But here's the thing, they can wear out fast.
It will wear out fast.
And that can cost us so much more in the long term if we are always opting for what is the cheapest. That's not to say that sometimes the less expensive option is still a great choice. And that's where some of our research can come in, and knowing, am I buying quality here? But this is really where we want to go for value, not just the price of something, to really calculate, if I were to be buying $20 shoes, but I got to buy them every single year, what if I bought $100 shoes and they lasted me for 10 years? There's something.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, I'm seeing 4 price points for products. Like I'm seeing the cheapest option. I'm seeing the luxury option that is really just luxury brand for brand name and not worth it. And then I'm seeing in the middle to the second to cheapest, which is what most people will buy, is just the cheap quality with a better brand. And then it's this like second to most expensive, which is where the real quality, where you're buying real quality, it's going to be more expensive than where you're typically going, but not the most expensive either. Like, I don't know if you've seen that, but that's what I'm seeing. Like the more expensive option is not always better, but the option that's a little more expensive than that is usually worth the money. but also the most expensive option is also not worth the money.
Yeah, it's like a helpful kind of formula. I can't say that's going to work every single time.
Right.
But
It's try it out. I don't know.
Yeah.
You might see it. 6 is never tipping or under tipping. And we've talked about this a lot on the show. There are some places that I don't tip. The people working there do not make a tip wage. Then I'm probably not going to tip. But I'm also going to try to go to more locally owned places. So I know that the people who employ them are a little more ethical. Or I cannot count on it, but I'll have better luck with that than doing the alternative. But anywhere that is expected to tip in the US should be full tip, like whatever is appropriate for that industry. So whether it's restaurant, hairdressing, nails, what have you. If you can't afford a tip, don't do it as much or don't do it.
Yeah, you can't afford the service if you can't afford the tip.
Yeah, if it doesn't make you feel good to tip, don't use the service.
And lastly, number 7 is skipping preventative care or dental care. This one is a cheap decision. It'll absolutely make you miserable. Here's the thing. Preventative care truly can save you thousands of dollars when you are able to maintain this once in a lifetime body, when you are able to catch things early. That can save you so much money in the long run for what it could end up costing to not be caring for our teeth, not being aware of the ways that our body needs to be cared for, aware of maybe potential issues early on. So making sure that you are getting those annual checkups, those teeth cleanings, it will cost a few $100, but think about the thousands of dollars in savings in the long term.
Yeah. Most of the women I know who have been diagnosed with cancer in the last year or two, it has been on a routine preventative care wellness check.
And when I hear friends like that, it's early, and it's always that, I'm so glad you caught this when you did, because we know how we can respond to it. It's not going to be everybody's story, certainly, but it is a way to encourage ourselves to kind of do that thing, make that appointment, and just care for ourselves. If you want more lists of ways to actually be frugal and not miserable, check out this video.